My name is Electra and welcome to the first episode of Autumn Reads. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Paper and Heart Society by Lucy Powrie. Lucy Powrie is a YouTuber I've been watching lately a lot, and her favorite genre are classical books. And she wrote this book and I wanted to support her, so I purchased it. Obviously, I also purchased one for my friend Ellen, and I really liked it. I ended up really enjoying it, and I didn't expect that, to be honest, because it's a debut novel, but I ended up loving it. So Tabby is spending her summer with her grandmother, and she's encouraged to get up from the couch, where she's constantly reading and watching movies and stuff alone, to go and meet people. And so she stumbles upon a poster about a book club, so she decides, okay, why not? Let's do this. So she sends an Instagram message to Olivia, who she's the first person she gets in contact with, and so she decides to go to their first meeting. And then she realized that Olivia, together with Casey, Henry, and Ed, are basically best friends. So she's entered in a best friend group, and she's already feeling a bit the odd one out. She also has anxiety, which prevents her from saying what she feels like and feeling comfortable with new people and so on. So the book goes also into that, which I really appreciated. And these kids go and try to meet each other, and the story rolls in. So in that book, because I guess it's made for us bookworms, not only, but primarily, I would say, other books are also mentioned. So one of them is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, which I picked up from the library. And I haven't read any Sylvia Plath books before, but I'm hoping I will get into it. So I would like to read you two passages from this book, and one is the first sentence of chapter 2, and it says, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that any book lover in want of a good book will always find one in a library." So true. And then it goes on also with some references to Harry Potter. For instance, Professor Lupin in Harry Potter says chocolate is the best way to ward off Dementor attacks. So I think whenever you're feeling sad or mad or angry, chocolate is always the answer to your problems. So yeah, I really recommend it for a heartwarming read. So if I were to continue with the heartwarming feeling that I described earlier, these are the books for you. So there are 2 volumes, Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, and it's a graphic novel. I'm not really a fan of graphic novels, but I have found myself reading since this summer a bit more, getting into it, and I really enjoyed this one. Although I thought it was a bit too short for my liking, I would have really wanted more of the story, but there are more volumes coming up, so that's exciting. So the blurb says, "Boy meets boy, boys become friends, boys fall in love." That's pretty much it. But it's so cute and refreshing to read about bisexuals, gays, all the spectrum of sexuality. And I recommend it as well as a quick, very quick. I read the first one, I think, in 1 hour and a half or so. Read for someone who, likes graphic novels. Super cute. So next off, we have Normal People by Sally Rooney. So I'm a bit, I don't know, I don't know how to really describe this book, to be honest, because while I was reading it, I was enjoying it. I really wanted to see what was going to happen to the main characters, Connell and Marianne. So you see them from the beginning. It starts with them being in high school, and then off to different universities and so on. We see, like, through the years how their relationship developed. And we found out that Marianne is from a wealthy family, and Connell is not. His mom is actually the one who is cleaning Marianne's house. So that's how the story begins. So the reason I'm conflicted about this book is because When I finished it, I was really, really angry at how everything turned out. No spoilers. But I don't know. I really didn't like the fact that things, they were missing out on things just because they weren't communicating to each other, and that is something that really pisses me off in books and movies, whatever. That certain things would have been avoided if the people would just talk, and I think that's why I rated it low, or lower than I would have wanted to in the beginning. So first, I think I rated it with 4 stars, and then I ended up giving it 3 or 2.5 for that reason. And then I decided, okay, I'll just gonna watch an interview or read an interview with Sally Rooney talking about this book, and my feelings didn't change. So it's not a book that I would recommend. I'm glad that I read it. It's not that I'm not going to read any more of this author. I think the one that I wanted to read is Conversations with Friends, and it was recommended by Lena Norris, which is one of my favorite YouTubers. So I think I'm going to give her another go, but this didn't really fit with me. So moving on to a middle class book, I guess. It's a series by Diana Wynne Jones called The Chronicles of Chrestomanci. I bought myself all 3 volumes at once because they were recommended by my very, very best friend Ellen, and I know that if she recommends a book, I need to have it. So I started this one. I just finished it last night, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. So it's about Eric Chant and Gwendolyn Chant. Yes, Gwendolyn, I know it's a weird name. And this year, the Chants are a family strong in magic, but neither Christopher nor Cat can work even the smallest of spells. So how can they hope to thwart the themes of an avaricious enchanter and a ruthless young witch schemes that would destroy all the worlds of Chrestomanci? So it's hard to talk about this without revealing too much, but if you love Harry Potter, and most people do love Harry Potter, I think this is the book for you. So and how my friend Ellen told me about it is that it's an older version, one could say, of Harry Potter, written in the 70s. You can see a castle, you can see a dragon, there's magic, there's a school, there are kids involved, and it's super cute. So I'm really obviously looking forward to finding out what's happening next. So I would recommend for both a younger audience but also adults, because, well, as adults it doesn't mean that we cannot read any more children's books. So on that same note, I read another book called Nevermoor by Jessica Townsend. So I have the 2nd volume of the series right now because, well, I read Nevermoor and borrowed it from the library, and I had to return it because I think a kid reserved it, so I needed to return it quickly. It was an amazing read, so adorable, but also tackling with death and things that were not supposed to, well, tell or reveal to kids maybe of that age, but it shows it in a way that it makes it possible somehow, and I think that shows how the author Jessica Townsend is so talented. So Jessica, yes, she's my friend now, Jessica, has made a sensation with this book, and even before it was published, there is already a movie that is in the works, so I'm super, super excited about that. So Morrigan Crow, the girl who this book is about to die in the first book, as we are told from the very beginning, on her 11th birthday, because she's cursed. And everyone knows about it. Her family obviously knows about it, and everyone's preparing for the day when she will no longer be. And that happens to other kids as well, who are considered cursed. But then a few days before that event happens, weird things are starting to roll in her life, and she cannot explain it. She always justifies everything by her being cursed, and that's why weird things are happening around her, and deaths and bad stuff. But is it really the truth? You have to read and see. There's also a 3rd book coming up next year. So yeah, there are three awesome reads. I guess I can already maybe vouch for the third one, considering how she's her writing style and everything. And I think this would have been a great book if I had read when I was a kid. But I still enjoyed it as an adult because, as I said, nothing wrong with that. So yes, definitely recommend it. Wow. So moving on to a bit more serious adult books. I want to talk about Margaret Atwood. So if you haven't heard of her, she has written a lot of dystopian books, and she's very well known for creative writing courses and how she has approached climate change, as she's an activist herself. And she made a sensation in September when her new book was released called The Testaments. So the reason I want to talk to her, I want to talk to her as well, but the reason I want to talk about her is because of this book, The Handmaid's Tale, which I read when I found out that The Testaments, which is the sequel of that book, was about to be released. And it was how I expected it to be, and much more. It was hard to read, like any other Margaret Atwood books that I have read in my life. I have to put it down and think a lot about what is happening. I think it's a book that one can early on say from the very first page, and I may or not be biased, but I really think that this is a book that is going to become a classic and a must read. She tackles issues such as power and lack of freedom, and it's scary for us to read, especially I think in this day and age, considering what is happening with Trump and all the Facebook scandals and the monitoring, and who is really the decision maker, how much corporations, companies, the military can have so much power over us and our future. That's why I think this author has a lot to say about it. So the book has a very rough first paragraph that I want to share with you. So, a chair, a table, a lamp. Above, on the white ceiling, a relief ornament in the shape of a wreath, and in the center of it a blank space, plastered over, like the place and face where the eye has been taken out. There must have been a chandelier once. They've removed anything you could tie a rope to. Maybe you can already understand the feeling of this book. And continuing on about freedom, as I talked to you before, there is more than one kind of freedom, sent Aunt Lydia. Freedom to and freedom from. In the days of anarchy, it was freedom to. Now you're being given freedom from. Don't underrate it. How I wasted them, those rooms, that freedom from being seen. So it's about a handmaid whose life's work and purpose is to procreate, because not every woman can do so. So they are scheduled to have sex with the commander, is called, for them to have kids together. But as soon as the kid is being born, then it's not longer theirs, but it's the commander's wife who cannot have kids. That will be the mother of that child. And we look through what the world has come to be, and we learn a lot about what happened before, how things were before. We learn about her past life and who she used to be, and how she is right now, and she's just like a player in that chess of a world that she doesn't understand, but she has come to terms with at the same time, because there's no hope. That's the whole feeling that I've gotten from this book, and that's why I have put it down multiple times until I was able to finish it. Although when I did, I instantly wanted to read it again, and that is why I decided to read it in another format. So I listened to the audiobook, which is great, by the way. I don't usually tend to read books by the same author, like back to back, but this one really, I feel like I want to write essays upon essays on my thoughts about this book, which I have already started doing, because it tackles, as I said, themes that are very much relevant to today, and that is why The Testaments was a sequel in decades in the making, and that is why it was anticipated in such a way. And yeah, she's an author and a person that has really touched me and has inspired me to think differently and to act differently in a way that all this lack of hope that she describes, when you see her like in the videos or wherever, she really inspires for you to be something else and not give up. Yeah, so The Handmaid's Tale, and this cover is really amazing. I think it's really, I don't know, when I think of dystopian, I think of this cover. So next we have an audiobook called Lowborn, written by Kerry, Hudson. And I read or I listened to the audiobook for this one, and it was narrated by the author Kerry Hudson, and I think it made it even better in my experience of reading that book. And the reason is because, well, this book is a non-fiction, and it's about her life in Aberdeen, where she had it really, really rough, with considering her family, being surrounded by alcoholic people and drug users, and poverty really was a big something that impacted her life in from the very beginning. And now she's well off, better off, I would say, with her husband and everything, and she's really happy. And it was really hard for her to write that book. And I think by listening to her narrating her story in the form of this audiobook, she really conveyed that feeling to me as a listener. So the book is written in a way where she tries to explain why she wanted to have this book out, mostly for her, but also for the people that are in this very low class of society, to have some sort of real life representation and not some other people writing about how they live their lives, which I think is really good. And she really takes that matter into not only her as herself having had such a bad experience, but she talks about the social structure that has made for this kind of society to exist. So she goes on and talks about why she wants to write this book, talks about her life, and she decides that the best way to do so, and to get her memories back that she has hidden in a part of her brain that she was afraid to explore, she goes back to the place where she lived. So she has lived in different places within that town, and it was the trip was hard for her. The memories were, of course, horrifying, and it was also not easy to listen, and I have found myself really in the verge of crying while listening to what she has been through, especially with her relationship with her mom, her grandma, her friends that she lost because of what she was going through, and the change that she went through in her life, from being that person with such a heavy burden of a past, with all the baggages that come with it and everything, and how she manages life now, and how she's always going to be that person coming from that part of the UK and that social class and everything. And it's not something that determines her life right now, but it's something that she has to live with, and she makes that very clear. And I think it's a triggering read, So if you want to read about what kind of triggers, because I don't want to spoil either, you can look it up on Goodreads. But it's definitely something that I now can also listen to. But it's definitely a book to remember, and I want to purchase it as a physical copy to have here and go back to when I feel the need to do so. So yeah, it was also a 5-star for me, for the writing style, the courage of that person to tell her story, but also not keeping it also as, oh poor me, this has happened in my life and now I'm better, so yeah, you can do it too, which I hate as a concept, because it's not true, and we need to also think about the people that are stuck in this life, while they have no way of getting out of it. So yeah, I do recommend it, with the caution of looking up the triggers that this book might bring to you as a listener or reader. So our next book is another audiobook I have for you, called Jones and the Six. So the only reason I picked this book up was because it was all over the internet. It was super hyped. I really recommend the audiobook because it felt like, and it really did feel like listening to a documentary with interviews of different people from this band. So Jones and the Six was a band, a fictional band, which that was a red flag for me right there. That why would I be so interested in a fake band? But I went along with it because I thought I would also be super excited, like many others that I have seen online being excited about it. But sadly, that was not for me. So yeah, I forgot to mention that the author is Taylor Jenkins Reid. She has written also other books that I'm not disregarding just because of my bad experience with this one. But this was a bad experience for me. So how can I put this? It's a fictional band. It's about a fictional band with, of course, fake fictional interviews and so on. But it was not the format that threw me off. It was the fact that I thought that the reason why the author would want to write about this book is because it has something more to offer than just the generic 70s band that dealt with drug use and alcohol. Yeah, that was a period. We have a lot of real bands that we can read and learn about, and that was just, it felt like a generic one other band. So I didn't feel the need for such a book. That was one thing. The other was that the characters were so one-dimensional. All acted like the world was just about them and them and them. They were all talking about themselves. And of course, because it was interviews, it was the opposite of show and tell. It was only tell and not show. And there was a love story in that book. And it's not that I didn't get it, but because it was not a show and tell, and because they weren't talking about the experiences and the whys they felt for each other, I just didn't connect at all. Again, I didn't see the point in that. And there were some characters that were just made for them to have these one-liners that also were, again, feeling generic. Not for me, really. And I don't understand why the hype. I get that, especially for the audiobook, that the actors playing out this and reading out this book out loud, yes, they did a great job. They did. But that's it. I really hate saying that about a book, but I really hated that book. I don't recommend it to anyone. Maybe because I'm older, but again, I don't think so. That one-dimensional characters, they don't change because you don't appreciate them more or less when you become older. It's just, no. It's a no for me. So yeah, this is the end of the first episode. I hope you enjoyed, and I will have the links down below for all the books that I mentioned, audiobooks and physical copies. And see you next time. Bye!